stretched endlessly before me as I adjusted my cap and sipped my lukewarm coffee. Name's Mike Lawson, 42 years old, hauling freight across America's highways for nearly 2 decades now. This morning marked day 3 of a 5-day run from Chicago to San Bernardino, prime Route 66 territory, the Mother Road herself. My rig, a midnight blue Peterbilt I call Midnight Runner, hummed patiently in the truck stop parking lot. She's not the newest model, but she's mine, paid off after years of installments that sometimes felt endless. "Dispatch to Mike, you copy?" My CB radio crackled. "Go ahead," I responded, climbing back into the driver's seat. "Checking your ETA for San Bernardino, client's asking. Should be there tomorrow evening if weather holds. Cargo's secure." "Roger that. This one's high priority, Mike. Tech components for Vertex Innovations. CEO's breathing down everyone's neck about it." After signing off, I fired up the engine, feeling that familiar rumble. My companion Buddy, a 3-year-old Australian Shepherd mix I'd rescued from a shelter, perked up from his bed in the sleeper berth. His mismatched blue and brown eyes watched me expectantly. "Ready for another day, boy?" I scratched behind his ears. Buddy responded with an enthusiastic tail wag before settling back down. The routine was comfortable, predictable. Wake up, drive, take breaks, find a place to sleep, repeat. The landscape changed, but the rhythm remained constant. I'd been divorced for 6 years. Karen couldn't handle the long absences. Our son Tyler was in college now, studying engineering. We talked weekly, and he seemed to be doing well. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister. "Don't forget Mom's birthday next week. Video call Sunday at 6 p.m. your time." I typed a quick "will do" before pulling onto the highway, merging with the early morning traffic. The familiar weight of the trailer, the gentle resistance of the steering wheel, the hum of tires on asphalt. These sensations were more home to me than my apartment in Chicago. Route 66 has a way of making you philosophical. Maybe it's the ghost towns, the abandoned motels with faded signs, the diners serving the same pie recipe since the 1950s. It's America's timeline stretched across the continent, and I've driven every mile more times than I can count. Today's stretch would take me through Kingman, then to Needles, crossing from Arizona into California. The forecast showed clear skies, traffic was light, and I had my audiobook queued up. A thriller about a detective tracking a serial killer. Buddy was content. Just another day in the life of a long-haul trucker. But something felt different about this run. Call it intuition, call it nonsense, but there was a strange energy in the air. Like the universe was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. I'd felt it since leaving Chicago, a persistent sensation that this wouldn't be just another delivery. I dismissed the thought. Too many late nights listening to Coast AM with its tales of the paranormal. The reality of trucking isn't mysterious encounters. It's diesel prices, DOT regulations, and trying to find decent food that won't give you heartburn. As I settled into the drive, watching the sun climb higher, painting the desert in gold and amber, I had no idea how right that strange feeling would turn out to be. No idea that in less than 24 hours, my predictable life would be turned completely upside down by a woman in a wedding dress standing on the side of America's most famous highway. The day progressed like any other, a blur of asphalt, desert landscapes, and occasional stops. By late afternoon, I'd crossed into California with the sun beginning its descent. The Mojave Desert stretched out on either side, beautiful in its harsh, minimalist way. I'd just passed through Needles when I noticed the fuel gauge dipping lower than I liked. There was a truck stop coming up, one of those independent places with character, unlike the chain operations that all look the same coast to coast. "Almost time for a break, buddy," I said. His ears perked up at his name, but he didn't move otherwise. Smart Dog knew the difference between break time and almost break time. The Desert Oasis truck stop appeared on the horizon. I pulled in, parked, and shut down the engine. After walking Buddy and filling Midnight Runner's tanks, I headed to the attached diner for some food. I secured Buddy to a post near the entrance where I could see him through the window, then took a seat at the counter. The place was half full. Truckers, tourists doing the historic Route 66 drive, and a few locals. "What can I get you, honey?" asked a waitress whose name tag read Flo. "Cheeseburger, fries, and a chocolate shake," I replied. While waiting for my food, I checked my phone. A text from dispatch confirmed my delivery window for tomorrow. I also had an email from Tyler with photos, him and his friends at some college event, all smiles and youthful energy. My food arrived, and I ate while half listening to the conversations around me. I was just finishing my shake when my phone rang. The caller ID showed Vertex Innovations. "Hello, this is Mike Lawson," I answered, wondering why the client was calling me directly. "Mr. Lawson, this is Robert Chen from Vertex," came a clipped voice. "I'm calling about the shipment you're transporting." "Everything's secure and on schedule," I assured him. "Excellent. There's been a slight change. We need you to make a detour to our R&D facility in Victorville before proceeding to San Bernardino. It's not far off your route." I frowned. Changes mid-delivery weren't uncommon, but always a hassle. "I'll need to clear that with dispatch. We've already notified your company. You'll receive the updated delivery instructions shortly. The cargo needs to be at the Victorville facility by noon tomorrow." "I'll make it happen," I said, though I wasn't thrilled about the tighter timeline. "We appreciate your flexibility, Mr. Lawson. This shipment is particularly valuable to us." After hanging up, I paid my bill and headed back outside. Buddy greeted me with his usual enthusiasm. "Change of plans, boy," I told him as we walked back to the truck. As I helped Buddy into the cab, I noticed a sleek black SUV with tinted windows pulling into the truck stop. Something about it caught my attention. It moved with purpose, like whoever was driving knew exactly where they were going and why. I didn't think much more about it as I pulled back onto the highway. The sun was setting now, painting the desert in dramatic oranges and purples. The updated delivery instructions came through from dispatch 20 minutes later, along with a message: "Client stressed importance of security for this load. Keep all doors locked, park in well-lit areas, maintain regular check-ins." That was unusual. I was hauling tech components, not gold bars. But clients could be paranoid about their intellectual property, especially in the competitive tech industry. Still, combined with that direct call and the change in delivery location, something felt off. As darkness fell completely and the stars emerged in the vast desert sky, that strange feeling from earlier returned stronger than before. The highway stretched ahead, a ribbon of black cutting through the darkness, and for the first time in years, I felt a sense of uncertainty about what lay ahead. Little did I know that in just a few hours, a desperate woman in a wedding dress would change everything, and that mysterious cargo I was hauling would suddenly become the least of my concerns. I found a decent spot to park for the night at a rest area about an hour outside of Barstow. After securing the truck and doing a quick inspection, I took Buddy for his evening walk. The desert air had cooled considerably, and the night sky was spectacular, one of the perks of these remote stretches of highway. Back in the truck, I went through my evening routine, logged my hours, set my alarm, made sure doors were locked, and prepared a quick sandwich. As I ate, I checked the news on my tablet. The usual depressing headlines scrolled by. I switched to a streaming service instead, finding a mindless action movie I'd seen before. Buddy curled up in his bed and I reclined my seat. The movie played quietly as my thoughts drifted to tomorrow's altered delivery. Something about it still bothered me, but I couldn't put my finger on what exactly. I must have fallen asleep because the next thing I knew, Buddy was growling low in his throat, his body tense and alert. The movie had ended, and according to the dashboard clock, it was just past 2 a.m. "What is it, boy?" I whispered, immediately alert. Buddy wasn't one to make a fuss without reason. Through the windshield, I could see most of the rest area was quiet. A few trucks had their running lights on, and the vending machines near the restrooms cast a fluorescent glow over a small section of the parking lot. Then I saw it, movement at the edge of the lot, near where the pavement met the desert scrub. A figure moving quickly but erratically, as if either injured or trying to avoid being seen. Even in the dim light, something about the silhouette seemed off, bulky in places a person shouldn't be bulky. My first instinct was to start the engine and get out of there. In the middle of nowhere at 2 a.m., nothing good comes from strange figures lurking around. But then the figure stumbled, clearly falling to one knee before struggling back up. "Damn it," I muttered. Someone was in trouble. I reached for my flashlight and phone. "Stay, buddy," I commanded. "Guard the truck." Stepping down from the cab, I locked it behind me, keeping the keys in my hand with the panic button readily accessible. I didn't approach the figure directly, but moved to a position where I could see better while maintaining a safe distance. "Hello," I called out. "You all right over there?" The figure froze, then turned toward me. In the beam of my flashlight, I saw what had made the silhouette so strange. It was a woman in a wedding dress, a full-on white, puffy wedding dress, now dirty and torn at the hem. Her dark hair was falling out of what had probably been an elaborate updo, and her makeup was smeared from what looked like tears. "Please," she said, her voice hoarse. "Please help me." I kept my distance. "Are you hurt? Should I call 911? "No," she said quickly. "No police, please. I need to get away from here." Every warning bell in my head was ringing. This had all the hallmarks of a situation a lone trucker should avoid. A strange woman, middle of nowhere, desperate circumstances, requesting no police involvement. "Look, ma'am, I can't just—" "They're after me," she interrupted, glancing nervously over her shoulder. "My fiancé, ex-fiancé, his family. They're looking for me. I ran away from my own wedding." And that explained the dress, at least, but not why she was in a rest area in the Mojave Desert at 2 a.m. "The ceremony was in Las Vegas," she continued. "I got cold feet, realized I was making a huge mistake. His family, they're not good people. I hitchhiked, but the last driver got creepy, so I jumped out when he stopped for gas." Her story was either completely true or the most elaborate carjacking setup I'd ever encountered. "I'm sorry about your situation, but I think the best thing would be to call the highway patrol. They can—" "Please," she said, taking a step toward me. "I just need a ride to the next town, somewhere I can get a bus or train. I have money." She held up a small purse. "I can pay you." "Dean," I hesitated. In all my years on the road, I developed a pretty good sense for when someone was lying. And despite all the red flags, something about her seemed genuine. Still, I shook my head. "I can't. I'm on a schedule, hauling valuable cargo. Company policy is clear about unauthorized passengers." "I understand," she said, shoulders slumping. "I'll just keep walking then." She turned away, stumbling slightly on her impractical shoes. The image of her walking alone along the highway in that wedding dress, vulnerable to whoever might come along next, didn't sit right with me. But neither did the alternative. I had responsibilities, to my company, to my client, to myself. The cargo I was hauling was apparently important enough for direct client calls and mid-route changes. I couldn't jeopardize that for a stranger with a wild story. As I walked back to my truck, headlights suddenly appeared at the entrance to the rest area, a vehicle moving too fast, with purpose. The woman saw it too. Even from this distance, I could see her body tense with fear. "That's them!" she called to me, panic evident in her voice. "Please, I can't let them find me." The approaching vehicle was a black SUV with tinted windows, the same one I'd seen at the truck stop earlier. I couldn't be sure, but the coincidence seemed unlikely. In that moment, I had to make a choice, stick to protocol, to safety, to my responsibilities, or help someone who might genuinely be in danger. "Get in," I said, the words leaving my mouth before I could reconsider. Quickly, the woman didn't hesitate. She gathered up her dress and ran toward my truck as fast as her impractical shoes would allow. I helped her up into the passenger seat, Buddy immediately investigating this new person with curious sniffs. "He's friendly," I assured her as I climbed into the driver's seat and started the engine. Name's Buddy. I love dogs, she said, offering her hand for Buddy to sniff. Despite the tension, her face softened as she gently scratched behind his ears. I'm Eliza, by the way, Eliza Reyes. Mike Lawson, I replied, putting Midnight Runner in gear. I'm not promising anything beyond getting you away from here, understand? The black SUV had pulled into the rest area now, its headlights sweeping across the parking lot. I pulled out as casually as possible, not wanting to draw attention. Duck down, I told Eliza, at least until we're back on the highway. She complied without question, crouching below the dashboard. Buddy, sensing the tension, moved to the sleeper berth, watching us with alert eyes. I merged onto the highway, maintaining a steady speed, not too fast, not too slow, nothing that would attract attention. After a few minutes with no sign of pursuit, I told Eliza she could sit up. Thank you, she said, her voice thick with emotion. I know this is crazy. I'm still reserving judgment on that, I said honestly, but those people in the SUV definitely seem to be looking for something, or someone. She nodded, staring out at the dark desert landscape. It's a long story. We've got time, I replied, and I think you owe me an explanation if I'm risking my job to help you. Eliza took a deep breath. I was supposed to marry Julian Vertex today. Yes, of the Vertex family, Vertex Innovations. I nearly swerved. Vertex, as in the company whose cargo I'm currently hauling. She looked at me with surprise. You're carrying Vertex tech. That's quite a coincidence. Is it? I asked, suddenly suspicious again. Or did you know that somehow? How would I know what you're transporting? She countered. I was running away from my own wedding, not tracking random truck drivers. Fair point. Still, the coincidence bothered me. So you're telling me you were about to marry into the family that owns one of the biggest tech companies in the country, and you ran away at the last minute? She nodded, twisting the engagement ring on her finger, a diamond so large it caught the dim light from the dashboard. Julian isn't a bad person, not really. But his father, Richard Vertex, he's dangerous. The whole family business is built on more than just innovative technology. And you know this how? I worked for the company before Julian and I started dating. I'm a software engineer. That's how we met. She looked down at her ruined wedding dress. The more serious we became, the more I learned about the family business, things that made me uncomfortable. What changed? Last night, at the rehearsal dinner, I overheard Richard talking about Project Prometheus. It's a classified AI system they're developing for military applications. The way he was talking, it was like he was selling access to something that could be incredibly dangerous in the wrong hands. I frowned. And the cargo I'm hauling could be components for that system, she finished. The main development is happening at their Victorville facility. My stomach dropped. That was exactly where I'd been rerouted to deliver the cargo. When I confronted Julian about it, he tried to downplay everything. Then this morning, right before the ceremony, I saw an email on Julian's phone. They're planning to sell Project Prometheus to a foreign entity. It's not just unethical, it's treason. It sounded like something from a spy thriller, not real life. But the fear in her eyes seemed genuine, and the black SUV following her lent credibility to her story. I needed to call someone about this. There was one person I trusted who might know what to do. I dialed a number I hadn't called in years. It rang 3 times before a gruff voice answered, "Do you have any idea what time it is, Lawson?" "Good to hear your voice too, Frank," I replied. "Sorry about the hour, but I've got a situation." Frank Delaney had been my mentor when I first started driving trucks 20 years ago. Before that, he'd been military intelligence, then worked for one of those 3-letter government agencies he never specified. He'd retired from trucking 5 years back, but we'd stayed in loose contact. I gave him a quick rundown of the situation: the cargo, the runaway bride, the Vertex connection, the black SUV. "Jesus, Mike," he said when I finished. "You've stepped in it this time. Tell me about it. What should I do?" "First, don't deliver that cargo to Victorville. If what the girl says is true, you don't want to be involved in that." I can't just not deliver it. That's theft. It's not theft if you deliver it to the proper authorities, but you need to be careful about who you contact. If Vertex has the kind of connections she's talking about, this needs to go straight to federal level. And in the meantime, keep moving. Stay off main highways when possible. I'm going to make some calls, see if I can arrange a secure handoff point. Meet me at the old Rusty's truck stop in 3 hours. You're coming yourself? I asked, surprised. Like I said, you've stepped in it. And I'm not about to let my best student get taken down by corporate espionage. Besides, he chuckled, retirement's been boring as hell. I put Midnight Runner in gear and slowly descended into the valley, headlights illuminating the approaching scene. As we got closer, I could see the figure more clearly, a woman middle-aged with short grey hair and a stance that suggested military or law enforcement training. She didn't move as we approached, just stood by her car with her hands visible at her sides, a deliberate posture to show she wasn't a threat. I stopped about 50 feet away, keeping the headlights on her. "Stay here," I told Eliza. "Buddy guard." Buddy sat up alertly, positioning himself protectively near Eliza. I stepped down from the cab, leaving the door open and the engine running. "I'm looking for Frank Delaney," I called out. "Frank sent me," the woman replied. Her voice was calm, authoritative. "He's been delayed. My name is Agent Diane Harper, FBI. "Show me some ID," I demanded, staying by my truck. She slowly reached into her jacket and pulled out a badge wallet, holding it up so the light caught it. "I can come closer so you can verify it." "Stay there," I said. "Where's Frank?" "He was concerned your meeting might have been compromised. He contacted me because I've been investigating Vertex innovations for the past 18 months. That got my attention. Investigating them for what? Initially corporate espionage, now potentially treason. She nodded toward my truck. "Is Eliza Reyes with you?" I hesitated, not wanting to confirm or deny anything. "It's okay, Mr. Lawson. We've been hoping she'd come forward. She's not in trouble. In fact, she might be our key witness." Before I could respond, Eliza opened the passenger door. "I can hear you," she called out. "How do I know you're really FBI?" Agent Harper smiled slightly. "Because I'm the friend in San Francisco you were trying to reach. We've never met in person, but your colleague Maya Chen put us in touch 3 months ago when you first became concerned about Project Prometheus." I looked back at Eliza, who appeared shocked. "Is that true?" She nodded slowly. "Maya did connect me with someone from the FBI, but I only knew a name, Diane. We exchanged a few encrypted emails. This was either an incredible coincidence or a very elaborate trap. But if Frank had sent this agent, he must trust her, and Frank didn't trust easily. "What's the plan?" I asked, still not moving from my position by the truck. "We need to secure that cargo," Agent Harper replied, "and get Ms. Reyes to a safe location where she can make a formal statement." "And Julian?" Eliza called out. "What happens to him?" Agent Harper's expression softened slightly. "That depends on his level of involvement and whether he's willing to cooperate." I was about to respond when Buddy started barking frantically from inside the cab. At the same moment, Agent Harper's posture changed, her hand moving toward what I assumed was a concealed weapon. "Get down!" she shouted. The night exploded with the sound of gunfire and the flash of headlights suddenly illuminating the valley from the ridge we had just descended. The first bullet pinged off Midnight Runner's hood, sending me diving for cover behind the massive front tire. "Eliza, stay down!" I shouted, heart pounding in my chest. Through the open door, I could see she had already dropped to the floor of the cab, pulling Buddy down with her. Smart woman. Agent Harper had taken cover behind her sedan, gun drawn, returning fire toward the ridge. I could see at least 2 vehicles up there, their headlights cutting through the darkness. "Lawson!" Harper called out. "We need to move! Get to your truck!" I didn't need to be told twice. Staying low, I scrambled back to the driver's door, practically diving into the seat. "Hold on!" I shouted, throwing Midnight Runner into gear. The massive engine roared as I floored the accelerator, the truck lurching forward with surprising speed for its size. In my side mirror, I saw Agent Harper make a dash for her sedan. She made it inside, just as another burst of gunfire erupted from our pursuers. Her car's engine revved, and she pulled out behind us. "There's a service road on the other side of those structures." Harper's voice crackled through my CB radio. "It connects to an old mining trail that leads back to the highway." "Roger that," I responded, gripping the wheel tightly as Midnight Runner bounced over the uneven terrain. "Who are these people?" I asked, both to Harper on the radio and to Eliza beside me. "Vertex Security," Eliza answered, pulling herself up into the passenger seat. "Richard has a private security force, ex-military mostly. They handle the company's special problems." "And now we're a special problem," I muttered. The service road Harper had mentioned appeared ahead, little more than a dirt track winding between rocky outcroppings. I slowed slightly, concerned about the truck's stability on such rough terrain, especially with a full trailer. "Can this thing make it?" Eliza asked, bracing herself against the dashboard as we hit a particularly deep rut. "She'll make it," I assured her, though I wasn't entirely confident myself. Midnight Runner's tougher than she looks. In my mirrors, I could see Harper's sedan following closely. Beyond her, the pursuing vehicles had reached the mining camp, their headlights sweeping the area as they searched for our trail. "They'll figure out which way we went soon enough," I said. "This isn't exactly a subtle vehicle." "Just keep going," Harper's voice came through the CB. "There's a highway patrol checkpoint about 15 miles ahead on the main road. If we can reach it, we'll have backup." 15 miles of this terrain in a fully loaded semi. It would be challenging, but what choice did we have? We'd crossed a threshold now. There was no going back to my simple life as a trucker. Not until we figured out how to deal with the people shooting at us over corporate secrets and government contracts. And somehow, I knew this was just the beginning. The main building was locked, but a side door yielded to Harper's forceful kick. Inside, we found a small fleet of maintenance trucks and a couple of patrol vehicles used by highway safety officers. "Perfect," Harper said, approaching one of the patrol cars. She pulled out a small tool from her pocket and had the door open in seconds. "I'm guessing you can hotwire this," she asked me. I raised an eyebrow. "You're FBI, and you're asking me to steal a car?" "I'm FBI asking you to requisition emergency transportation in a life-threatening situation," she corrected with a hint of a smile. "Besides, we'll return it, eventually." I shook my head but moved to the driver's side. "It's been a while, but I think I remember how." While I worked on starting the car, Harper kept watch at the door. Eliza stood nearby, one hand resting on Buddy's head, the other clutching her small purse, the only possession she had left besides the borrowed clothes she was wearing. "I'm sorry about your truck," she said quietly. I glanced up at her. "It's just a truck. It can be replaced." Though even as I said it, I felt a pang of loss. Midnight Runner had been more than just a vehicle to me. "Still, you've lost so much because of me. Your job, your truck, maybe even your freedom if we get caught stealing government vehicles." "Requisitioning," Harper corrected from the doorway. "And no one's getting caught if you can get that car started in the next 2 minutes. I think I hear engines approaching." That motivated me. A few more crossed wires and the patrol car's engine roared to life. "We're in business," Harper nodded approvingly. "Good work, now let's—" She was cut off by the sound of tires on gravel outside. Headlights swept across the windows of the maintenance building. "They're here," she said grimly, drawing her weapon. "Get in the car, both of you. When I give the signal, drive out the back exit. I'll cover you." "What about you?" I asked. "I'll be right behind you. Just get Eliza to safety. That's the priority." I didn't like the plan, but I didn't have a better one. Eliza and Buddy got into the back seat of the patrol car while I slid behind the wheel. Harper positioned herself near the main doors, gun ready. "On my mark. 3, 2, 1, go!" I floored the accelerator and the patrol car shot toward the rear exit, a large roll-up door that was thankfully already partially open. We squeezed through the gap with inches to spare, emerging into the back lot of the facility. Gunfire erupted behind us as Harper engaged the Vertex security team. I swerved around parked vehicles, aiming for a service road that led away from the compound. "We can't leave her," Eliza protested as we reached the perimeter. I was about to agree when Harper's sedan came bursting through the rear door of the building, fishtailing slightly before straightening out and accelerating toward us. "She made it," I said with relief, continuing down the service road with Harper following close behind. We had escaped the immediate threat, but we were far from safe. My truck was disabled, the valuable cargo was effectively abandoned, and we were now fugitives in a stolen government vehicle. The adrenaline that had been carrying me through the night was starting to wear off, leaving me with a bone-deep exhaustion and the dawning realization of just how much trouble I was in. "Where are we going?" Eliza asked from the back seat, her voice small and tired. "I don't know," I admitted. "Harper's the one with the plan now." As if on cue, the radio in the patrol car crackled to life. Harper had somehow tuned it to a frequency she could use to communicate with us. "Head north on the service road for about 3 miles, her voice instructed. "There's an old ranger station that's been decommissioned. We can regroup there." I followed her directions, driving as fast as I dared on the rough road. The sky was beginning to lighten slightly in the east. Dawn wasn't far off. We'd been on the run all night. The ranger station appeared ahead, a small wooden structure set back from the road, partially hidden by scrub brush and small trees. I pulled in behind it, cutting the headlights. Harper's sedan arrived moments later. "Quick check of the perimeter," she said as she approached our vehicle. "Stay put." She disappeared around the building, gun drawn. A minute later she returned and motioned for us to come inside. The ranger station was dusty and clearly hadn't been used in years, but it had intact windows and doors that could be secured. Harper quickly checked all entry points while I found a place for Eliza to sit, an old wooden chair that looked relatively stable. "Are you okay?" I asked her. She was pale, with dark circles under her eyes, and her hands were trembling slightly. "I'm fine," she said, though she clearly wasn't. "Just processing everything. 24 hours ago, I was getting ready for my wedding. Now I'm a fugitive, hiding in an abandoned ranger station with a truck driver and an FBI agent, being hunted by my almost father-in-law's private army." When she put it that way, it did sound pretty surreal. "We should be safe here for a few hours," Harper said, returning from her security check. "I've contacted my supervisor. A team is being assembled, but it will take time to get proper authorization for an operation against someone as powerful as Richard Vertex." "What about Julian?" Eliza asked. "Does he know what's happening?" Harper's expression was carefully neutral. "We don't know his level of involvement yet. He reported you missing, but whether that was genuine concern or part of the cover-up remains to be seen." Eliza nodded, looking down at her hands. I could see the conflict in her face. She had clearly loved this man, maybe still did, but now had to face the possibility that he was complicit in his father's crimes. "What about the cargo?" I asked. "If it's components for this Project Prometheus thing, shouldn't we be worried about them getting their hands on it?" "Already handled," Harper replied. "When Frank contacted me, I dispatched a team to intercept the truck. They should be securing it as we speak." I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. At least the cargo wouldn't be my responsibility anymore. "And what about us?" I asked. "What happens now?" Harper's expression softened slightly. "You've both been through a lot. Get some rest if you can. When my team arrives, we'll move you to a secure location for debriefing." Rest sounded good in theory, but I was too wired, too alert to the danger we were still in. Buddy seemed to sense my anxiety, pressing himself against my leg in a gesture of canine solidarity. I moved to the window, carefully peering out at the desert landscape, now turning golden in the early morning light. Somewhere out there, Richard Vertex's security team was still hunting us, and I couldn't shake the feeling that our ordeal was far from over, that the real test, the true provocation, was yet to come. The hours crawled by in the abandoned ranger station. Harper maintained regular contact with her team via a secure satellite phone, speaking in clipped, professional tones that revealed little to Eliza and me. Buddy had finally settled down, curled up at Eliza's feet, his head resting on her shoe as if he'd appointed himself her personal guardian. I'd found an old metal folding chair and positioned it near the window, keeping watch over the approach to our hideout. The desert was quiet, almost peaceful in the morning light. Hard to believe that just hours ago people had been shooting at us. "You should try to get some sleep," Eliza said, coming to stand beside me. "You've been driving all night, then all this. You must be exhausted." I shook my head. "Too wired. Besides, someone should keep watch." "That's what I'm here for," Harper interjected, joining our conversation. "Both of you need rest. We may need to move quickly later." Reluctantly, I agreed to close my eyes for a bit, settling into a dusty old couch against the far wall. Despite my protests about being too alert, exhaustion claimed me almost immediately. I woke to Buddy's wet nose nudging my hand. The light through the windows had changed. It was mid-afternoon now. I'd been asleep for hours. "Welcome back," Harper said, noticing I was awake. She was seated at a small desk, cleaning her service weapon with practiced efficiency. "Feel better?" "Yeah," I admitted, stretching the kinks out of my back. "Any news?" "My team secured your truck and the cargo. It's being transported to a secure facility for analysis." She reassembled her gun with quick, precise movements. "And we've identified the men who attacked us. Private security contractors hired by Vertex, as Ms. Reyes suggested. They have military backgrounds, which explains their tactics." "Where is Eliza?" I asked, noticing her absence. Harper nodded toward a door at the back of the room. "Small office back there. She's resting." I stood up, stretching again. "So what's the plan now?" "Extraction team will be here within the hour. Helicopter landing about half a mile from here. We'll take you both to a safe house in San Diego for debriefing." "San Diego?" I frowned. "What about my truck? My job?" Harper's expression softened slightly. "I understand this has disrupted your life, Mr. Lawson, but you're a material witness now in a federal investigation involving national security. Your cooperation is not just appreciated, it's required." I nodded, understanding the subtext. I wasn't being given a choice. "Your employer has been contacted," she continued. "They've been told you're assisting with a federal investigation. The details are classified, but they understand you're not AWOL. And my truck will be returned once the investigation is complete. Any damages will be compensated." It wasn't ideal, but it was better than I'd expected. At least I wasn't being treated as a suspect. The door to the back office opened, and Eliza emerged. She looked better after some rest. Her face had regained some color, and she'd managed to tame her hair into a neat ponytail. She was still wearing my flannel shirt, but she'd tied it at the waist, giving it a more fitted appearance. "I heard voices," she said. "What's happening?" Harper repeated the extraction plan for her benefit. Eliza nodded, accepting the information with remarkable composure for someone whose life had been completely upended in the past 24 hours. "What about Julian?" she asked, the question that had clearly been weighing on her mind. "Have you found out if he's involved?" Harper hesitated, which told me the news wasn't good. "We've been monitoring communications. Julian Vertex has made several calls to known associates with ties to foreign intelligence services. It appears he's actively involved in the planned sale of Project Prometheus." Eliza's face fell, the last of her hope visibly draining away. "I see," she said quietly. "I guess I was wrong about him after all." I felt a surge of sympathy for her. It was one thing to suspect someone you loved might be involved in something shady. It was another to have it confirmed. "I'm sorry," I said. Inadequate words for such a profound betrayal. She gave me a sad smile. "Don't be. Better to know the truth, right? No matter how much it hurts." Harper's satellite phone buzzed. She answered it, listened for a moment, then said, "Understood. We'll be ready." Hanging up, she turned to us. "Extraction team is ahead of schedule. ETA 20 minutes. Gather your things." We didn't have much to gather. My emergency duffel, Eliza's small purse, Buddy's leash. As we prepared to leave, I found myself looking around the dusty ranger station with an odd sense of attachment. In this unlikely place, something had shifted for me. The comfortable routine of my life had been shattered, but in its place was, what? Purpose, adventure, danger, certainly, but also a strange sense of being truly alive for the first time in years. "Ready?" Harper asked, checking her weapon one final time before holstering it. "As I'll ever be," I replied. We left the ranger station and followed Harper across the desert terrain, staying low and moving quickly. Buddy trotted alongside us, occasionally looking up at me as if to ask if this unusual behavior was really necessary. About half a mile from the station, we reached a small clearing where the helicopter would land. Harper instructed us to wait in the cover of some large boulders while she moved to the center of the clearing to signal the approaching aircraft. "You okay?" I asked Eliza as we crouched behind the rocks. She nodded. "Strangely, yes. For the first time in months, I feel like I'm doing the right thing, even if it's terrifying." I understood that feeling. There was clarity in crisis, a stripping away of the mundane concerns that usually occupied our minds, leaving only what truly mattered. The distant thump of helicopter blades reached us, growing louder as the aircraft approached. Harper stood in the clearing, using a small signal mirror to catch the pilot's attention. The helicopter, a sleek black model with no markings, appeared over the ridge, descending toward the clearing in a controlled manner that spoke of a skilled pilot. As it neared the ground, dust and small debris swirled around Harper, who stood firm, one hand shielding her eyes. "That's our ride," I said to Eliza, raising my voice to be heard over the increasing rotor noise. "Ready to get out of here?" She nodded, a determined look replacing the sadness that had been there moments before. "More than ready." The helicopter touched down, its side door sliding open to reveal two men in tactical gear. Harper waved us forward, and we ran toward the aircraft, hunched low beneath the spinning rotors. As we approached, one of the men reached out to help Eliza aboard. I followed with Buddy in my arms. I wasn't sure how he'd react to the helicopter, and I didn't want to risk him panicking and running off. Once we were all aboard, the door slid shut, and the helicopter immediately began to ascend. Through the window, I watched the desert landscape fall away beneath us, the abandoned ranger station growing smaller until it was just another speck in the vast expanse of sand and rock. We had escaped, we had survived, and we had secured what Harper called the reward, not just our lives, but the evidence and testimony that could bring down a conspiracy threatening national security. But as the helicopter banked and headed west toward San Diego, I couldn't shake the feeling that our journey was far from over. The most dangerous part, confronting Richard Vertex and his organization directly, was still to come. The safe house in San Diego was nothing like I'd imagined. Instead of a nondescript suburban home or a sterile government facility, it was a luxury condo in a high-rise overlooking the harbor. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered spectacular views of the bay, and the furnishings were modern and expensive. "Nice digs for a government operation," I commented as we were shown inside by a serious-looking agent who introduced himself simply as Torres. "It's a seized asset," Harper explained. "Formerly owned by a cartel financier, now it serves as an off-the-books location for sensitive operations." The condo had 3 bedrooms, a spacious living area, and a kitchen stocked with basic supplies. Torres informed us that the building had 24-hour security and agents were stationed on our floor and in the lobby. We were safe, but we were also effectively confined to the condo until further notice. "Make yourselves comfortable," Harper said. "I need to brief my superiors and coordinate the next phase of the operation. Torres will remain on site if you need anything." After she left, Eliza and I stood awkwardly in the living room, suddenly aware that we were strangers, thrown together by extraordinary circumstances. "I'm going to take a shower," she said finally, "if that's okay." "Of course," I replied. "You don't need my permission." She gave me a tired smile. Force of habit, I guess. Living with Julian and his family. Everything required permission. Deal. After she disappeared into one of the bedrooms, I took Buddy out onto the balcony. The fresh air felt good after the tension of the past 24 hours. Buddy seemed to agree, sniffing enthusiastically at the potted plants and stretching out in a patch of sunlight. I checked my phone. No service. They must have blocked the signal for security reasons. I was cut off from my normal life, floating in this strange new reality where I was part of a federal investigation into corporate espionage and treason. My thoughts turned to my truck, abandoned in the desert. Midnight Runner had been more than just a vehicle to me. She'd been my home, my livelihood, my freedom. The thought of her sitting there damaged and empty hit me harder than I expected. Eliza emerged from the bedroom about 30 minutes later, her hair wet from the shower, wearing what appeared to be FBI-issued sweats and a T-shirt. She looked younger, more vulnerable without the makeup and wedding attire. "Feel better?" I asked. She nodded. Amazing what a hot shower can do. She joined me on the balcony, leaning against the railing and looking out at the harbor. "It's beautiful here." "Yeah," I agreed. "Different world from the desert." We stood in companionable silence for a while, watching boats move across the water and seagulls wheel overhead. "I never thanked you properly," she said eventually, "for helping me, for believing me." "You didn't have to do any of that." I shrugged. "Couldn't exactly leave you stranded in a wedding dress in the middle of nowhere. Still, you risked everything, your job, your truck, your safety, for a complete stranger." "Well, when you put it that way, it does sound pretty stupid," I said with a half smile. She laughed, a genuine laugh that transformed her face. "Maybe, but it was also brave." Torres interrupted our moment, appearing at the balcony door. "Agent Harper is on her way back. She has updates." We moved back inside, just as Harper entered the condo, accompanied by an older man in a well-tailored suit, who carried himself with the confidence of someone accustomed to authority. "This is Assistant Director Callahan," Harper introduced him. "He's overseeing the Vertex investigation." Callahan nodded to us. "Ms. Reyes, Mr. Lawson, thank you both for your cooperation in this matter. Your actions may have prevented a serious breach of national security." "What's happening with the Vertex family?" Eliza asked, getting straight to the point. Callahan gestured for us all to sit. "We've moved quickly based on the evidence you provided, Ms. Reyes, combined with what we found in the cargo Mr. Lawson was transporting. Richard Vertex was taken into custody an hour ago, several of his top executives as well. And Julian?" Eliza's voice was steady, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. "Julian Vertex has not been located yet," Callahan admitted. "We believe he may have fled the country. Interpol has been notified." Eliza nodded, absorbing this information with remarkable composure. "What about the wedding guests, my friends? They must be worried." "A statement was released indicating you had taken ill and the ceremony was postponed. Your friend Maya Chen has been discreetly informed of your safety, though not the details." "Thank you," Eliza said quietly. Callahan turned to me. "Mr. Lawson, your employer has been cooperative. Your job is secure, and your truck is being repaired at government expense. However, we'll need you to remain here for a few more days while we complete our investigation." I nodded, relieved about my job and truck, though not thrilled about being detained longer. "What about Buddy?" "He needs regular walks, proper food." "That can be arranged," Callahan assured me. "Agent Torres is a dog owner himself. He'll make sure your companion is well cared for." With the immediate concerns addressed, Callahan moved on to the more serious matters. "Ms. Reyes, we'll need a complete deposition from you regarding everything you know about Project Prometheus and the Vertex family's activities. This will likely take several days." "I understand," she said. "I want to help however I can." "And Mr. Lawson, we'll need your statement about the events of the past 24 hours, as well as any details you can provide about the cargo you were transporting." I agreed, though I wasn't sure how much help I could be. I was just the driver, after all. As the meeting concluded and Callahan prepared to leave, he paused, looking at both of us with a serious expression. "I want to be clear about something. While we've apprehended Richard Vertex, this investigation is far from over. His organization has deep connections in both the private and public sectors. Until we've identified and neutralized all threats, you both remain in potential danger. With that sobering thought, he departed, leaving Harper to handle the details of our protective custody. "So we're prisoners here?" I asked after Callahan had gone. "Protected witnesses," Harper corrected. "There's a difference." "Doesn't feel like much of one from where I'm standing," I muttered. Eliza touched my arm gently. "It won't be forever, Mike. Once they've rounded up everyone involved, we can go back to our lives." Our lives. The phrase struck me as oddly hollow. What life was I going back to? The endless highways, the solitary meals at truck stops, the brief phone calls with my son. It had been enough before, but now... "Yeah," I said, not wanting to voice these thoughts. "Back to normal." But as I looked at Eliza, at Buddy, at the unfamiliar luxury of our temporary sanctuary, I wondered if normal was something I could ever return to, or if I even wanted to. 3 days passed in the safe house, a strange limbo of comfort and confinement. Eliza spent most of her time with FBI agents, providing detailed information about Project Prometheus and the Vertex family's operations. I gave my statement too, though it took considerably less time. My part in this drama had been relatively brief, if intense. When not being debriefed, Eliza and I found ourselves drawn to each other's company. Maybe it was the shared experience, or maybe it was something more, but conversation flowed easily between us. I learned about her childhood in New Mexico, her passion for coding that started when she was just 12, her dreams of creating technology that would genuinely help people. In turn, I told her about my brief military career, my failed marriage, my pride in my son Tyler, and how driving trucks had given me the freedom I'd always craved, even if it came with loneliness. "Do you ever get tired of it?" she asked one evening as we sat on the balcony, watching the sun set over the harbor. The constant movement, never staying in one place. I considered the question carefully. Sometimes there are days when I envy people with normal lives, coming home to the same place every night, having routines, belonging somewhere. But then I think about being stuck in one spot, and I get antsy. "Sounds like you haven't found the right place to stay yet," she observed. Before I could respond, Harper entered the condo, her expression more serious than usual. "We have a situation," she announced without preamble. "Julian Vertex has been located. He's in Mexico, at a private airfield near Ensenada. He's scheduled to board a private jet in 6 hours, destination unknown." "You're going after him?" Eliza asked, standing up. Harper nodded. "A team is being assembled. But there's a complication. He's requested to speak with you, Eliza. Says he has information he'll only share with you." "That's obviously a trap," I interjected. "We believe so too," Harper agreed, "which is why we're not considering it." "But what if it's not?" Eliza said quietly. "What if he really does have information? Something that could help your investigation?" "Eliza, you can't seriously be considering this," I said, alarmed by the thoughtful look on her face. "Julian is many things, but he's not his father," she replied. "If he's reaching out, there might be a reason." Harper's expression remained neutral, but I could tell she was weighing the possibilities. "Even if we wanted to pursue this, Callahan would never authorize putting you in that position. What if we made it look like my idea?" Eliza suggested. "Like I escaped custody to meet him." "Absolutely not," I said firmly. "It's too dangerous." "Mike's right," Harper added. "The risk is unacceptable." Eliza looked between us, frustration evident on her face. "So we just let him go? Let him disappear, with whatever secrets he has?" "We'll catch him," Harper assured her. "It might not be today, but we will find him." The conversation was interrupted by Harper's phone. She answered it, listened for a moment, then her expression changed to one of alarm. "When?" she demanded. "How many?" After another pause, she said, "Lock down the building. I want a full tactical team here in 10 minutes. She hung up and immediately drew her weapon. "We need to move, now. The safe house has been compromised." "What? How?" I asked, already moving to gather Buddy. "We're not sure yet, but multiple armed individuals have entered the building. They've neutralized our lobby security." She moved to a cabinet and pulled out a go bag. "There's an emergency exit through the service elevator. We need to be gone before they reach this floor." The calm of the past 3 days shattered in an instant. Adrenaline surged through me as I clipped Buddy's leash to his collar and grabbed my duffel bag. Eliza moved with similar urgency, her earlier frustration replaced by focused determination. Harper led us to what appeared to be a utility closet, but actually concealed a private elevator. "This goes directly to the parking garage. There's a vehicle waiting with a driver. He'll take you to a secondary location." "You're not coming with us?" Eliza asked. "I need to coordinate the response team. We'll try to apprehend them." She handed me a small device that looked like a key fob. "Emergency beacon. If anything happens, press this button. Help will come." The elevator doors opened, and Harper ushered us inside. "The driver's name is Ramirez. He'll identify himself with the phrase, 'The weather in Chicago is unpredictable.' If he doesn't use those exact words, do not get in the car." As the doors began to close, Harper added, "Be careful, both of you." The elevator descended rapidly to the parking garage. Buddy pressed against my leg, sensing the tension. Eliza stood close to me, her shoulder touching mine. "You okay?" I asked her. She nodded, though her face was pale. "Just when I thought we were safe." The elevator doors opened to reveal the dimly lit parking garage. It appeared empty except for a few parked cars. No sign of our contact. "Stay behind me," I whispered, stepping cautiously into the garage. Every instinct was on high alert, scanning for threats, listening for any unusual sounds. We moved carefully between the parked vehicles, heading toward the exit where our ride was supposed to be waiting. Buddy stayed close, his usual curiosity suppressed by the tense atmosphere. A car engine started somewhere in the garage, the sound echoing off the concrete walls. Headlights flashed twice from a sedan parked near the exit ramp. "That must be our ride," Eliza whispered. We approached cautiously. As we neared the vehicle, the driver's window lowered, revealing a man in his 40s with a close-cropped beard. "The weather in Chicago is unpredictable," he said in a low voice. I felt a surge of relief. "That's our guy." We quickly got into the back seat, Buddy settling between us. The driver, Ramirez, pulled away immediately, taking us up the exit ramp and onto the street. "Where are we going?" I asked. "Secondary safe house," Ramirez replied tersely. "About 30 minutes from here. Agent Harper will meet us there when she can." As we drove through the streets of San Diego, I kept checking the side mirrors for any sign of pursuit. Eliza sat rigid beside me, her hand absently stroking Buddy's fur. "How did they find us?" she wondered aloud. "Someone talked," Ramirez said grimly. "We've suspected a leak in the operation for a while. This confirms it." The implications of that were disturbing. If Vertex had people inside the FBI, how could we trust anyone? We were about 15 minutes into the drive when Ramirez suddenly accelerated, taking a sharp turn down a side street. "What's happening?" I demanded. "We're being followed," he said, his voice tense but controlled. Black SUV, 2 cars back, tinted windows. I looked back and saw the vehicle he was describing. It matched the ones that had pursued us in the desert. "Hold on," Ramirez warned, making another abrupt turn. The SUV followed, no longer attempting to be subtle. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. Ramirez executed a series of evasive maneuvers, his training evident in the precision of his driving. But our pursuers were skilled too, staying with us through every turn and acceleration. "I can't shake them," Ramirez admitted, checking his sidearm with one hand while driving with the other. "I'm going to try to reach the highway. More witnesses there. Less likely they'll try something." We never made it to the highway. As we approached an intersection, a second SUV appeared from a side street, deliberately crashing into our side. The impact sent our car spinning, airbags deploying in an explosive burst. My head slammed against the window despite the airbag. momentarily stunning me. Through the ringing in my ears, I heard Buddy barking frantically and Eliza calling my name. "Mike! Mike! Are you okay?" I blinked, trying to clear my vision. "I'm all right," I managed, though my head was throbbing. "You?" "I'm okay," she said, her voice shaky. "But Ramirez." I looked to the front seat and saw our driver slumped against his seatbelt, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. He was unconscious but breathing. Through the cracked windshield, I could see men emerging from both SUVs, weapons drawn. We had seconds at most. The beacon, I remembered suddenly, fumbling in my pocket for the device Harper had given me. Finding it, I pressed the button, praying it would bring help in time. "We need to move," I told Eliza, already reaching for the door handle. It was jammed from the impact. "Try your side." Her door opened with a metallic groan. "Come on," she urged, already helping Buddy out. I followed, squeezing through the gap, wincing as a piece of twisted metal caught my jacket. We were in an industrial area, warehouses and storage facilities lining the street. No pedestrians, no witnesses, perfect for an ambush. "This way," I said, pulling Eliza toward the nearest building, a large warehouse with a partially open loading dock. Buddy ran alongside us, no leash needed now. We had almost reached the shelter of the warehouse when the first shots rang out. Bullets pinged off the pavement near our feet, sending us into a desperate sprint. We made it inside the warehouse, finding ourselves in a cavernous space filled with shipping containers and pallets of goods. The perfect maze for hiding or being trapped. "Keep moving," I urged, guiding Eliza deeper into the warehouse. "We need to find another exit." Behind us, I could hear men entering the building, their footsteps echoing on the concrete floor. They were being methodical, communicating with hand signals rather than voices. We ducked behind a stack of pallets, trying to control our breathing. Buddy, bless him, seemed to understand the need for silence, staying close and quiet. "The beacon," Eliza whispered. "How long before help comes?" "I don't know," I admitted. "Minutes? Hours? We can't wait to find out." I peered around the edge of our hiding place, trying to get a sense of how many pursuers we were dealing with. I counted at least 4 men, all armed, all moving with the precision of professional operators. "We need a distraction," I whispered. An idea formed, risky, but possibly our only chance. "I'm going to draw them away. When I do, you and Buddy head for that exit sign on the far wall." "No," Eliza said firmly, gripping my arm. "We stay together." "Eliza? No," she repeated. "I'm not letting you sacrifice yourself. We find another way." The determination in her eyes was unmistakable. This wasn't the same woman who had flagged me down in a wedding dress, desperate and afraid. This was someone who had found her strength, who refused to be a victim again. I nodded, accepting her decision. Okay, together. In that moment, something shifted between us, a connection deeper than the circumstances that had thrown us together. Whatever happened next, we would face it as a team. We moved carefully through the warehouse, staying low and using the shipping containers for cover. Our pursuers were spreading out, systematically searching each row and section. "There," Eliza whispered, pointing to a small office built into the corner of the warehouse. "Might have a phone, maybe another way out." It was our best option. We waited until the nearest searcher moved past our position, then made a dash for the office. The door was unlocked, thankfully, and we slipped inside, closing it quietly behind us. The office was small and cluttered, a desk with an ancient computer, filing cabinets, and a window that looked out onto an alley behind the warehouse. Most importantly, there was a landline phone on the desk. I grabbed the receiver and was relieved to hear a dial tone. I punched in 911, keeping my voice low as I quickly explained our situation to the dispatcher. They promised to send officers immediately, but warned it might take a few minutes. "We might not have a few minutes," I said, hanging up. "We need to get out of here now." The window was our best bet. I tried to open it, but years of disuse had sealed it shut. Without hesitation, I grabbed a metal paperweight from the desk and smashed the glass, quickly clearing the sharp edges from the frame. "You first," I told Eliza. "I'll hand Buddy to you." She climbed through without argument, then reached back to take Buddy as I lifted him up. I was halfway through the window myself when the office door burst open behind me. "Don't move," a voice commanded. I froze, one leg still inside the office, the other outside with Eliza and Buddy. Slowly, I turned my head to see one of our pursuers, a tall man with a military-style haircut, aiming a pistol directly at me. "Hands where I can see them," he ordered. I raised my hands slowly, mind racing for a way out of this. "Look, I don't know what this is about, but—" "Save it," he cut me off. "The girl, where is she?" I made a split-second decision. "She ran, took off down the alley as soon as we got the window open." He hesitated, clearly trying to decide if I was lying. That moment of uncertainty was all I needed. In one fluid motion, I pushed myself backward through the window, landing hard on the pavement outside. "Run!" I shouted to Eliza, who had thankfully stayed despite having the chance to escape. We sprinted down the alley, Buddy racing ahead of us. Behind us, I heard the man shouting into a radio, then the sound of breaking glass as he followed us through the window. The alley opened onto another street, this one busier with afternoon traffic. We ran toward it, hoping the presence of witnesses would deter our pursuers. We had almost reached the street when a black SUV screeched to a halt at the alley entrance, blocking our path. Two men jumped out, weapons drawn. We skidded to a stop, trapped between the men behind and in front of us. Buddy growled, positioning himself protectively in front of Eliza. "It's over," said one of the men from the SUV. "Come quietly and no one gets hurt." I moved slightly, putting myself between Eliza and the men. "What do you want with us?" "Not you," the man replied coldly. "Her, and what she knows about Project Prometheus." "If you're working for Richard Vertex, you should know he's already in custody," Eliza said, her voice remarkably steady. "It's over." The man smiled, a chilling expression. "Richard was just one part of a much larger operation, Ms. Reyes, and our employers are very interested in continuing his work. So it wasn't just the Vertex family. There were others involved, powerful enough to send armed men to kidnap a witness in broad daylight." The standoff was interrupted by the distant wail of sirens, the police responding to my 911 call. Our captors heard it too, exchanging glances. "We need to move," said the man who had followed us from the office. "Bring them both. We'll sort it out later." As they moved toward us, the world erupted in chaos. Tires screeched at the end of the alley as multiple vehicles arrived simultaneously. Men and women in tactical gear poured out, weapons raised. "FBI, drop your weapons! On the ground now!" Our would-be kidnappers hesitated, clearly calculating their odds. They weren't good. With obvious reluctance, they lowered their weapons and knelt on the ground. Among the FBI agents, I spotted Harper moving quickly toward us. "Are you hurt?" she asked, her eyes scanning us for injuries. "We're okay," I assured her, though my heart was still racing. "Ramirez? Being treated by paramedics. He'll be fine." She turned to the tactical team. "Secure the suspects and the vehicles. I want everything processed, fingerprints, DNA, the works." As the agents took control of the scene, Harper led us to an unmarked car parked nearby. "We need to get you both to a secure location. For real this time." "How did you find us so quickly?" Eliza asked as we settled into the back seat, Buddy between us once again. "The beacon worked perfectly," Harper explained, "and we had assets nearby, monitoring the situation after the safe house was compromised." "Who were those men?" I asked. "They said they weren't working for Richard Vertex directly." Harper's expression was grim. "That's what we need to find out. This conspiracy appears to be larger than we initially thought." The next few hours passed in a blur of movement and security protocols. We were taken to a military installation outside the city, processed through multiple checkpoints, and finally settled in a secure building that felt more like a bunker than a safe house. It was there, in a conference room deep within the facility, that Assistant Director Callahan delivered the news that would change everything. "Julian Vertex is dead," he announced without preamble. His plane exploded during takeoff from the airfield in Mexico. Preliminary reports suggest it was rigged with explosives. Eliza gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Despite everything, she had loved him once. We believe he was eliminated by the same organization that tried to abduct you today, Callahan continued. Based on intelligence gathered from the men we captured, we're dealing with a multinational consortium with interests in weaponized AI technology. Richard Vertex was their American partner, but there are others, in Europe, Asia, the Middle East. So this is bigger than just corporate espionage, I said, trying to process the implications. Much bigger, Callahan confirmed. This is about control of the next generation of warfare. Project Prometheus isn't just an AI system. It's a framework for autonomous weapons platforms that could operate without human oversight. In the wrong hands, it could destabilize global security. The weight of what we had stumbled into settled over the room. What had started with a runaway bride on Route 66 had led to an international conspiracy that threatened national security. What happens now? Eliza asked quietly. We continue our investigation, using the evidence you've provided and what we've gathered from the captured operatives. As for you two, Callahan paused, looking between us. We need to discuss your future. The word hung in the air between us. Future. Something that had seemed so straightforward just days ago was now completely uncertain. Given the scope of this conspiracy and the resources at their disposal, we believe both of you remain at significant risk, Callahan explained. We're prepared to offer you places in the Witness Protection Program. New identities, new locations, new lives. I looked at Eliza, trying to gauge her reaction. Her face was thoughtful, processing this dramatic turn. Could we be placed together? She asked, surprising me. Mike and Buddy and me? Callahan raised an eyebrow, looking between us. That could be arranged if that's what you both want. Was it what I wanted? A week ago, I was a solitary trucker with a predictable life and limited horizons. Now I was being offered a complete reinvention, potentially shared with a woman I'd known for less than a week. A brilliant, brave woman who had already changed my life in ways I was only beginning to understand. I'd like that, I said, the words coming easily. If Eliza wants it too. She reached for my hand, her fingers intertwining with mine. I do. 6 months later, Mike and Eliza Lawson, no relation to my former identity of course, opened a small computer repair shop in a coastal town in Oregon. With our modest house a short walk from the beach, Buddy had plenty of space to run, and I had finally found a place that didn't make me feel antsy after a few days. Eliza's expertise in software development attracted a steady stream of clients, while my mechanical skills handled the hardware side. It wasn't the life either of us had imagined, but it was ours, built from the ashes of what we'd left behind. The Vertex investigation continued, with occasional secure updates from Harper. Richard Vertex was sentenced to 20 years for treason. Several of his co-conspirators were identified and apprehended. Others remained at large, but the immediate threat had been neutralized. Sometimes, on clear nights, Eliza and I would walk along the beach with Buddy, looking up at the same stars I used to see from the cab of my truck on Route 66. The open road had been my home for so long, I never thought I'd find peace in staying still. But as Eliza had said that day in the safe house, I just hadn't found the right place to stay yet, or the right person to stay with. The runaway bride and the truck driver. Our story was indeed unforgettable, not just for us, but for the national security crisis we had helped to avert. We had returned from our journey with the elixir of truth, exposing a dangerous conspiracy and finding in the process something neither of us expected, a home in each other. As we walked back to our house, Buddy running ahead with typical enthusiasm, Eliza squeezed my hand. Any regrets? She asked, a question she posed occasionally, as if still amazed by the turn our lives had taken. Not a single one, I replied, meaning it completely. Best detour I ever took. The Arizona desert stretched endlessly before me as I adjusted my cap and sipped my lukewarm coffee. Name's Mike Lawson, 42 years old, hauling freight across America's highways for nearly 2 decades now. This morning marked day 3 of a 5-day run from Chicago to San Bernardino, prime Route 66 territory, the Mother Road herself. My rig, a midnight blue Peterbilt I call Midnight Runner, hummed patiently in the truck stop parking lot. She's not the newest model, but she's mine, paid off after years of installments that sometimes felt endless. "Dispatch to Mike, you copy?" My CB radio crackled. "Go ahead," I responded, climbing back into the driver's seat. "Checking your ETA for San Bernardino, client's asking. Should be there tomorrow evening if weather holds. Cargo's secure." "Roger that. This one's high priority, Mike. Tech components for Vertex Innovations. CEO's breathing down everyone's neck about it." After signing off, I fired up the engine, feeling that familiar rumble. My companion Buddy, a 3-year-old Australian Shepherd mix I'd rescued from a shelter, perked up from his bed in the sleeper berth. His mismatched blue and brown eyes watched me expectantly. "Ready for another day, boy?" I scratched behind his ears. Buddy responded with an enthusiastic tail wag before settling back down. The routine was comfortable, predictable. Wake up, drive, take breaks, find a place to sleep, repeat. The landscape changed, but the rhythm remained constant. I'd been divorced for 6 years. Karen couldn't handle the long absences. Our son Tyler was in college now, studying engineering. We talked weekly, and he seemed to be doing well. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister. "Don't forget Mom's birthday next week. Video call Sunday at 6 p.m. your time."